Good morning, my loves. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Disorder in the Court. There is a sentencing verdict, and we're about to hear it. Hello, hello, hello to my friends in the chat. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. So, yes, the jury is sequestered. So they've been hanging out with each other and they've been deciding what they're going to do, and they have decided. Hello, hello, welcome. So they should be bringing the court live any moment now. Any moment now. Hello, Great Dane Mom. Great Dane Mom was there with Doug the Great Dane there. Yes, we do, Johnny. With her beautiful Great Dane yesterday. Do you want me to show those pictures you sent me, Great Dane Mom? They're so pretty. She was on the courthouse steps after the victim impact statements. KK's Way, shocked at how long this is taking. No, I feel like this is probably the appropriate amount of time. I feel like they were taking an appropriate amount of time to decide whether someone should lose their life or not. I don't know. I feel like it's good. What do you all think? What did they do? Oh, hello, Destination. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I mean, it is. I don't know. I feel like it feels not to sound all Goldilocks-ish, but it kind of feels just right to me. I mean, you think they went with life, Rachel? You know, the way he was acting yesterday in court, it's almost like he was acting like a martyr. And it's almost like he was acting like he either was giving up and saying, "I deserve it. You gave me you made me guilty. You said I'm guilty, and now oh, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that, Christina. I agree. My chat is amazing. You have all been so amazing through all of this. I thank you so much. Also, please remember to hit the like button. But you have kept me company through this really harrowing trial, long trial, a trial that means a lot to a lot of us, has always meant a lot to me. And, I feel like they spent in this I feel like they spent a good amount of time making a very impactful decision, you know? And they've been spending a lot of time together. They've been, mulling over their thoughts about this case for a month while they've been sitting on this jury. I'm looking forward to hearing their thoughts, you know? I'm looking forward to hearing their thoughts. And, I'm sure none of them took it lightly. It's really, really, yes, I am, unfortunately, Alex. I haven't been feeling well the last few days, but I'll be okay. Usually when I'm sick, it passes pretty quickly. Um, Good to see everybody here. So I'm having a really hard time predicting what this jury decided. There's a few things that are running through my head. First of all, he has been found guilty. Thank you, KK's way. He's been found guilty of murdering 3 people under heinous circumstances, right? I'm sorry, you're still not feeling well, Sparkles. I'm sorry. 3 people under heinous circumstances. That's a lot of people. Right. Exactly, Solo. And the jury saw the photos. I'm sure they're very impacted by that. The circumstances. Oh, good to see you, Marie. The circumstances around it are absolutely heinous. No question about it. No question about the fact that because there was insurance fraud and he's been found guilty of that as well. Um, I don't know. By the way, Alex, would you like to come up and be with me while we hear the death penalty verdict? Since we were hoping to be live together for the actual the trial verdict, but we weren't able to do that. So if you want to come up for this, you're welcome. And I don't know if Jen is around, but you're welcome to come up if you want while we're waiting for this. So I'm torn on whether they. Oh boy, here we go.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Stephen W. Boyce,
But the thing is that it's a really heavy decision to make, and that's why I'm torn.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We're on the record on case CR 2221-1623,
Oh, I hope you feel
State
better,
of Idaho
Ross.
versus Chad Guy Daybell.
This is heavy.
This is the special sentencing proceeding that has been conducted last couple of days. The jury's been deliberating. The court is advised that the jury has reached a verdict
Thank
on the
you,
special
Alex.
sentencing proceeding and the special verdict form. I'll note the state's present with the 4 prosecutors who have tried the case, Mr. Pryor and his client, Mr. Daybell, present as well. I'll also note there's a courtroom conduct order in effect. I'd appreciate everyone complying with that, as you all have throughout this trial. I will note on the record before we get to the verdict that we did have a jury question yesterday that the court answered, and I've provided the question and copies of the answer to counsel. In addition, a second question came in today. I did go on the record with that question and answer with counsel and the defendant present, returned that response to the jurors. They've now reached a verdict in the case, so the court is going to have the jurors brought in and have the verdict delivered for reading.
Oh, it's okay, Alex. Go ahead. Do your weekend plans. Nowhere. I don't want you to be rushed. This will be fast anyway. Probably. So, y'all, this is as close as I can get to Chad, unfortunately. He's in all blue today. Interesting choice. Yeah, Pryor definitely shows his feelings more than Chad does. I don't think we're going to get much of a reaction from Chad, even if he does get the death penalty. And, he's probably got it through his mind that even if he does get the death penalty, infant nursery blue, even if he does get the death penalty, there's appeals and there's, a long way to go. Okay, well, I'll share the link. Alex, and come on up if you have time.
All right, please.
That link is for Alex. Yeah, Pryor does look like he has a funeral suit on.
Jury's all present, count for Your Honor.
Thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court understands you've reached a verdict on the special verdict form. Is that correct? All right, Mr. Bailiff, if you would please return the special verdict form to the court, I'll review that. Ladies and gentlemen, the verdict form is somewhat long and complicated. The court is going to take a moment to review the form.
Good morning, everyone coming in. Please remember to hit the like button. Welcome here. Thank you to the person who just sent me a PayPal. I very much appreciate that. While we're waiting for this to happen, here are some pictures. Oh, sorry, I have to delete some other pictures before I show those pictures. I have lots of pictures in my studio.
All right, the court's reviewed the special verdict form. I do find it's been properly filled out by the jury foreperson as well as correctly signed and dated. At this time, I am going to request, Madam Clerk, Ms. Holstein, if you would please read the special verdict form. If you'd like to remain seated or standing, it's a long form and will take some time to read, but however is most comfortable for you, Madam Clerk, you may go ahead and read the special verdict form into the record.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Fremont, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Chad Guy Daybell defendant, case number CR 22211623, special verdict. Part 1. We, the jury, render the following verdict on the alleged statutory aggravating circumstances. 1. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tylee Ryan was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration? Yes. 2. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Joshua Jackson, hereinafter J.J. Vallow, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration? Yes. 3. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has
Alex,
proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tamra, hereinafter Tammy Daybell, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration? Yes.
this is looking bad for Chad.
4. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tylee Ryan was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. Yes. 5, has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of J.J. Vallow was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity? Yes. 6, has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tammy Daybell was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity? Yes. 7, has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? By the murders or circumstances surrounding their commission, the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life? Yes. 8, has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murders at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society? Yes. If you answered no to each of the above questions, you do not need to answer any other questions. Simply have the presiding juror sign this verdict form and notify the bailiff that you are done. If you answered yes to any of the above questions, then please answer the questions in part 2. Part 2, we, the jury, render the following verdict on the weighing of all mitigating circumstances against the statutory aggravating circumstances. You are to only answer the following questions for those statutory aggravating circumstances for which you answered yes in part 1. 1, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tylee Ryan was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 2, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Joshua Jackson, hereinafter J.J. Vallow, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 3, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tamara, hereinafter Tammy Daybell, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 4, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tylee Ryan was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 5, with respect to
Did we lose the mic?
There's its back. 5, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of J.J. Vallow was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances.
Do we need a new mic? Okay, we're going to get a separate mic. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, what a time to have technical issues.
It's so nerve-wracking. Look at poor. I have a little bit of sympathy for Pryor. I can't help it because he did this. He was the
5.
only attorney, and
With respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of J.J. Vallow was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 6, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tammy Daybell was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 7, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that by the murders or circumstances surrounding their commission, the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. We unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 8, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murders at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. We unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. Once you have completed part 2, please have the presiding juror sign this verdict form and notify the bailiff you are done. Dated this first day of June 2024 and signed by the presiding juror.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk, for reading through the verdict form. Ladies and gentlemen, the court will note that given the complexity of this special verdict form, I think
I'm calling
in
it.
fairness to all those in attendance, including in particular victims
He's dying.
and the parties, the layman's explanation of this verdict is that the jury has made a finding that it would be appropriate to impose the death penalty as it relates to counts 1 through 6 in the amended indictment. And so pursuant to Idaho Code 192515, the court is directed that the
Wow.
defendant would be sentenced to death on those counts. The court will take up a concluding sentencing proceeding. I also have additional counts of insurance fraud. I've discussed with counsel moving forward in a consolidated hearing. The court's proposing that we do that this morning, waiving the right to a pre-sentence investigation report under Criminal Rule 32A. Before I get there, just let me ask at this time of the jurors, is this your true and correct verdict that's been rendered in this case? Very well. Does the state wish to have the jury polled on the special verdict form?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Does the defense wish to have the jury polled on this special verdict form?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Very well. As I mentioned, then that's the result of the verdict form. The court would then proceed with additional sentencing on those 2 counts, as well as the counts 1 through 6 determined now by the jury. Mr. Pryor, is the defense willing to move forward with a consolidated hearing on those counts this morning without a pre-sentence investigation report?
As previously indicated, Judge, yes, we are.
Okay, is the state going to be ready to proceed with a sentencing on those issues as well?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counsel, I do want to take a brief recess just to briefly prepare for that, given the verdict, and I will come back on the bench. It really won't take long. I would suggest that a 30-minute recess will come back on the record. The court will conclude with that sentencing hearing. So if everybody could be back here by 10 after, we'll have the jury return one last time to the jury room to wait for that final sentencing hearing. We'll conduct that in the presence of the jurors also, and then I'll have concluding instructions for the jurors. So we will be in recess for 30 minutes. We'll come back for that final stage of the proceeding. Thank you.
All right.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, Lynn. I mean,
That's
look, years and years ago, when we started this journey and the children were found, we started before they were found, but just going back to when they were found, him being arrested to now, it's like, this is what happens. Finally, some justice. And this is what happens when you murder children and your wife.
yeah.
Mm,
It's
mm,
he-
mm.
it's heavy, man. I have such mixed emotions. I have such huge mixed emotions. I'm going to remove that from the screen at this point, but I'll be monitoring to see when they come back. I mean, I was a little confused about what they're coming back to do on the sentencing, but like I guess they need to do a little bit more housekeeping on the other sentences. For
Yeah,
the
like the
insurance.
insurance.
Right. So I'm watching for when they come back, but it's so heavy because I do feel it's just, but also, my God, it's a person's life. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting here going,
Yeah.
woo, you know what I mean? I'm not. And I don't feel like
Yes.
I feel like the people in the room had that same feeling. Like no one that's why I was moving the screen around.
Mm.
I wanted to see what other people's reactions were in the room, Um, oh,
I w-
they're showing the outside of the court, so I might bring the screen back in a minute. It looks like they might do some reactions outside, so I'll bring
Interviews.
it back. But
Oh my God.
you're right. I think they the he should like he committed 3 murders in a death penalty state, right?
Mm.
You have and
Yep.
he got doing did he think he was gonna get away with that? Did he think and then he gets a lawyer who is not death penalty qualified, who honestly, yes, I understand that he was by himself up against an entire prosecution team, but he had all the
Yeah.
chances in the world to get a better team. Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, I think, look, I I don't think that any of these attorneys that represent these monsters are happy about it. I think that it's their job, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's hard for me, my feelings towards people who represent these guys. But oh my God, I'm just stunned. Oh,
Yeah, I don't think I've ever followed a case all the way through where the person got the death penalty, and now we know, I was listening to Nate Eaton last night talking about this. Yes, they just voted in the firing squad, you know, the firing
right.
squad
Yeah.
in Idaho, and they just had a completely bungled execution with um injection. Granted he was very old and all that stuff, but anyway,
Yep.
um they haven't
My
even built.
audio is keeps messing up.
Oh, okay. I can hear you fine. But anyway, they haven't built the facility for the firing squad execution. They don't have the budget to build the facility. And of course it's going to take some time. Let's see. Okay, there isn't like a full-on press conference going on right now. It's just Caitlin from East Idaho News recapping, so I don't think we need to hear that. But anyway, um what did you think of Chad's reactions and Pryor's reactions?
Um, I don't know. It's hard because the camera, I wish we could see closer, and really see their faces, but I feel like I've always seen more of a reaction out of Pryor than Chad, which is sad. Um,
Definitely.
and also part of me is like, is this like the easy way out for Chad? Now he doesn't have to sit in prison for life. It'll probably still be a while, of course, like you said, and a lot of like the new ways that they have to execute haven't really been even established, and definitely haven't been successfully used. So I don't know. It's going to be a journey to watch to watch, but with their reactions, I think Chad just looks defeated.
Yeah. He looked it was I was really watching. Yes, I did, Micro Kimmy, and I'm looking at I'm looking at the image that you sent, and I'm not quite sure actually what it is. I'm not quite I'm not quite understanding, but I'm bringing it up, and I have a few pictures to show at the end of the stream. So I just wanted to continue the conversation. But I'm also not totally sure what it is on the image. But anyway,
That's how mine was. I just clicked the dollar amount and didn't even look. And then once I looked, it was like a lemon. And I don't think he was laughing or crying, but it was just, I don't know. I'm sorry.
the Chad one, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was really closely watching Chad throughout the whole thing, and he, at first he kind of had his hands on the table, and then his hands kind of dropped down off the table, and he was kind of, for most of the trial, it's like he was trying to seem attentive and like he was paying attention, and that he like it was really interesting how he would be like super it was almost like he was emotionally interpreting what Pryor was saying,
Yeah.
from his seat, just like sitting there. He would sit bolt upright, and he would sometimes nod, when Pryor was talking, and then
Right.
when the prosecution was talking, he would just kind of be, I don't know. He was intentionally hard to read. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. He
He
was.
was
But he did. Do you think he looked more defeated towards the end and like
Yes,
today? Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. He looked more defeated. He looked and especially on the day of the sentencing, and then today, his hands were off the table. They were just kind of slack in his lap. They you know you could see a little bit more red on his face. You could see maybe he might have been trying to hold back tears a little bit. But I feel like Pryor had a harder time holding back his expressions.
Yes. But can you imagine being sitting there and being sentenced to death? Like how
No,
that would feel.
no. Yeah, I agree, Running Bear. His posture speaks volumes. It's always about for him, it's his posture. You know what I mean? And what I'm talking about is Chad. With Pryor, it
Yeah.
was about how intense his duck lips were at that moment. Like he has like yes, Queen
He
Bella.
comes.
And I think you're right about that. Like once he was found guilty, and
Yes.
once it seemed like it was going in that direction, you could see like the balloon started to like it was like a slow leaking balloon.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I completely agree. I
Like
do.
kind of a slow running out balloon. Um, so
Well,
sorry, what were you gonna say?
I just wanted to say, I think that because I'm getting ready to leave in a minute, so I need to jump in the chat. But I think that we should do like a after the verdict discussion, like after
Yeah.
we kind of soak in what happened. We can do it here, my channel, anywhere. I don't care. But I would love to do that after we kind of have time to think about it. And before I jump in the chat, I just want to tell you thank you because you have been keeping up with this every step of the way. And I know that's been hard because I haven't been able to do it and keep up with other things. And it's emotionally draining. And you've just done an excellent job. And I'm just so I'm proud to be your friend. And I'm really proud of you. And thank you for being here every day and, being a voice for what's happening and for the victims because you always are. And your commentary, like during Tammy's I used a clip of it during my live yesterday, and during Tammy's sister where she was like, I'm going to stand up for my sister. She wasn't unhealthy, and it's not a crime to be a middle-aged woman. And you were like, yes. Boom. Like, I loved it. It was
Oh,
just
that
so
was
good.
it was just so satisfying to hear her say
Yes.
those things. Yeah, that's always like the most satisfying part of the trial is hearing the victims speak
Yeah.
finally. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for them to finally have their say in front of their abuser or their, the person who, their murderer or their loved one's murderer. I
Yeah.
love that. That's one of the reasons I love court. It's where all of this stuff is aired out in a forum where there's a referee, and then hopefully there's some semblance of closure. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Even though
Yeah.
it's not always fair. Not everybody walks away completely happy, but that's the way, but unfortunately, when there's many people involved, not everybody is going to be completely happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
but you're right. There's a referee and it's facts. You're hearing the actual facts, not all of the hustle and bustle and rumors and all the things that, like in these true crime communities with court. I don't
right.
know. I like it. I'm with you. I'm much rather I like to follow through the trial and not all of this in between, just like with Koberger, and all, yeah, with
Exactly.
all of them. But
Exactly. Well,
okay, I'm going to jump in the chat and thank you for having me and let me be up here during this moment.
and thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you for joining me. I'm going to share your channel in chat to I'm sure most people know your channel, but I'm going to make sure everyone has it who
Well,
doesn't.
thank you. And I shared this stream too. And thank you so much, Lynn. And then, yeah, I'm going to finish. I'm going to stay with you. I'm just going to be in the chat. So,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
all right. See you later. And
All
yeah,
right.
I
Have a
hope you
good
feel
day.
better. Thank you.
Thank
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So, yes, I always love having Alex join me. She's one of the good ones. She's one of the good ones. Please definitely give her, if you aren't already subscribed to her channel, please do subscribe. So I have some pictures to show you. So first of all, these are some images that Great Dane Mom shared. She was there when they were doing the victim impact statements and the verdict on the day of the verdict, and with her beautiful dog Doug. So here's some pictures that she said I can share where, in front of the courthouse. Aren't these awesome pictures? So thank you so much, Great Dane Mom, for sharing these pictures. Beautiful, beautiful dog with a cool American flag on the neck, wrapped around the neck. I don't know if are you in any of those pictures? You may not have to you don't have to say if you don't want to, Great Dane Mom. Is that you? Are you in any of these pictures? Is that you, Great Dane Mom? You don't have to say if you don't want to. No. Okay. What a cute little pony. So, yeah. What a beautiful dog. I love Great Danes. They're so huge. They're huge. I hope the victims were able to get some sort of comfort out of that. Okay, now here's the image that Micro Kimmy shared. And unfortunately, I can't make it any bigger. And I'm not exactly sure. So I guess these are the different expressions he's had on his face. Oh, I thought she looked familiar, that court TV reporter. Micro Kim, it Yeah, which mood are you today? Yeah, it's cute. I thought that's what I thought it was, but I wasn't totally sure, so I didn't wanna speak out of turn. I don't think those are the only pictures I got, Great Dane Mom. I'll take a look. I double checked. Those were the only ones I picked, but I don't know. Chad really he really perplexed me during this whole trial because he was how can someone stay so stoic and so unfeeling for in a trial where they're talking about um not only the just the gruesome heinous murders of 3 people, but also a trial where he could potentially get the death penalty, and he did get the death penalty. I mean, legit, this man has been sentenced to death. And it's almost like, you know, for him, I think dissociation means being in a world of illusion where real life doesn't happen to him. You know, I was watching this Hoarders episode the other day where this woman basically she was in a mansion that had been completely hoarded. She hoarded the hell out of it, right? It was completely filled to the brim, and it was so bad that and she had gone into so much debt that she had to sell it. It was foreclosed upon, and people bought it with all the hoarding in it and her in it. And they came to get her out of her hoarded mansion, and she was still under the delusion that she was going to be able to keep her house. Okay, thank you, Great Dane Mom. That she was going to be able to keep her house, and she was going to be able to find storage for the rest of her stuff. Oh, these are nice pics. So like people are under such delusion. People are able to convince themselves of a completely different reality, you know, regardless of what is sitting right in front of their face. It's literal insanity. And so I think sometimes in some of these court cases, people are able to convince themselves that what's happening in front of them actually isn't happening. And it's mind-boggling. That's one of the reasons I like to study these people. You know, like they just are under some illusion that what's really happening isn't happening. And that's why they can have a completely different look and reaction on their face than we might. So look, there's Larry with Doug the Great Dane, Larry Woodcock. And Kay and Larry with the Great Dane. Doug the Great Dane. Those are beautiful pictures. I think I got one last one. Kay and Larry and Lauren. Kay and Larry and Lauren. I'm so glad you were there to do that, Great Dane Mom. That's really nice, beautiful service. Hoarding is definitely a thing. Such a beautiful dog. Very sweet. So, you know, and if you really think about it, you know, the way Chad was just sitting there expressionless. I don't know. Hold on one moment. I actually want to see what's going on Twitter, and if there is a and if Lauren is doing any lives right now. I'd really like to see if there's any reactions outside of the court. Hold on a moment.
Hey everyone. Can't take too long because there's only a half-hour recess before court starts back up again, and it's probably, been 10-15 minutes. But Chad Daybell just received the death penalty. I was inside the courtroom. I was able to sit next to Vicky Hoban, Tammy Daybell's aunt Vicky. And I was behind Colby and Kelsey and others, and in front of Kay and Larry, and we were all there. And Chad Daybell was, by the jury, was given the death penalty in Idaho, decided by his peers in the state of Idaho that is what he deserved, and that's what justice would be for what he has done for the murders of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. There were a lot of tears in the courtroom today. As one said, I'm sad and I'm happy. This doesn't bring anyone back. The crime, what's done is done. It doesn't bring anyone, back. It doesn't, but justice was served, and it's what the state of Idaho chose. And Chad Daybell was sitting there. He was swallowing a lot. I wouldn't say emotionless, but I don't know how to explain what I saw. So Dr. John Matthias, my husband and co-host, we will be going live later today, shortly. I'm going to go back into court, and then after court, I will rush home, and we will be doing a live later today with all of his thoughts and what he saw in court. Let me tell you about what the jury did. They walked in, and all I can say is I saw a look of contentment on their face, that they had made their decision and they felt good about it, but that it was a heavy decision. No one was smiling. But they came in, I don't know how to explain it, maybe a solidarity, just knowing what was coming. Thank you, Pam. Knowing what was coming, and they...
So this is Lauren Matthias. Her channel is Hidden True Crime. I'll put the channel in the chat. Lauren's channel has been covering this case since the beginning, very heavily, very deeply. She's been interviewing many members of the family, of Tammy Daybell's family, of extended members of, the victims. And she's married to a forensic psychologist named John Matthias. And they do really great presentations about, she's a former journalist who's now running this channel. And so they do really great content about this case and other cases as well, but this has been their primary focus. So I really enjoyed following. She does whenever there's been trials, she does lunch lives during breaks, and I really like getting color commentary and more detail from inside the courtroom. And there are a few journalists who are real books of knowledge, like walking encyclopedias about this case. One of them is Lauren. Another one is Nate Eaton from East Idaho News. And whenever I've been streaming, it's been from the East Idaho News feed. Another one is, I will post her link. Another one is Justin Lum from Phoenix. Now, Justin Lum will be the one to watch for Lori Vallow's upcoming trial, because Lori Vallow still has another trial for the murder of Charles Vallow, which happened July 11th, 2019. So let's continue watching, and I will post her link.
They came in, someone turned to me and said he's getting the death penalty when they saw the jury. And I thought, you're right. That's what's happening. And that is what happened. It was pretty clear. The guidelines and the directions and the instructions for sentencing was pretty clear, which is why I think we were all quite surprised it took them as long as it did to come to this decision. And so with the extra time it took them, they clearly were confident in their decision and what choice they made. And Chad Daybell received the death penalty. So I know that Tammy Daybell's family, there were a lot of tears coming from them. Samantha Gwilliam was crying, as were others crying. This is somebody that they knew for 30 years. No one wins, This is someone that they loved and embraced as part of their family. And then he did this, and now they're sitting there watching him being sentenced to death for what he did to their loved one. And he was once a brother-in-law. So I can't imagine all of the feelings that they're feeling. So that is the latest. More is continuing. Stay on our live stream for more, because we're going to go back into court on record with additional items. And again, Dr. John will be live later today. He is watching from home. I have yet to call him, so I'm going to also call him during this break to see what he's thinking and feeling, and we're going to figure out how to go live right after. So again, right after, let me show you guys right after, actually, there's going to be a press conference. As you can see. Unfortunately, again, I'll see if I can't set up my phone closer. Darn it, I should have brought my microphones. Sorry, guys, but there will be a press conference, and I'll go live right after court, and I'll have the press conference. Yes, I'll be the one with the phone. Actually, I'll see if I can't set up my microphone with my laptop. Let's see what I can pull off. Nah, I don't think I can. Anyway, I better run back up there. And then John and I will be live later today and he'll tell you his thoughts.
So that was Lauren and her lunch live. They should be coming back any moment now because it was roughly 30 minutes ago that they said they're going to have a 30-minute break. So if you're just joining us, the breaking news is that Chad Daybell has been sentenced to death in Ohio. Chad Daybell will get the death penalty for the murders of the particularly heinous and cruel murders of Tammy Daybell, JJ Vallow, and Tylee Ryan. And it was sobering to watch. He was pretty much as expressionless as usual. He, keeps things pretty stoic, but he also seemed pretty depleted. His lawyer was, definitely trying to hold back his emotions. It was a very hard fought trial. The odds were really stacked up against them. There was a mountain of circumstantial evidence, that's for sure. There was some forensic evidence, but the circumstantial evidence in this case was absolutely insurmountable, I believe. So much of it, so much. It was almost easier to prove the conspiracy than to prove the actual murder. And I want to thank you for being here, Great Dane Mom, and for what's Chad's link, Running Bear? I'm not sure. I'm not sure Chad has a link. Hold on one moment. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. Nate's channel is East Idaho News. I am checking his now. Nate and a few other people, a lot of people are in Nashville right now for CrimeCon. Oh, they are back.
All right, we're back on the record on CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell, concluding the special sentencing hearing that's being conducted where the court intends to sentence the defendant on the counts in the amended indictment, including the insurance fraud counts. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very well, Mr. Bailiff, if you'd please have the jurors brought in.
Yes, Your Honor.
How's he looking now? Get a closer look at him. He's had a moment to check into his portal. He's looking prayerful and somber.
All right, please.
He's standing. Yeah, I think I forget who was it that said that it's his posture that says everything, and it's true. And it's also where he holds his head. You know,
Freeze off, President Counter, for your honor.
Thank you. Please be seated.
that is the court that has the cursor right on the screen there. Do you see that cursor right there on the screen? That's the court that's doing that.
Okay, we are back on the record on CR 2221-1623, continuing the special sentencing proceeding.
Yeah,
The jury has returned its special verdict. The court would note that pursuant to Idaho Code 18-4004, which is the punishment for murder statute in Idaho, that crime in murder of the first degree can be punished by death. And under Idaho Code 192515 subsection 7A, that states that if the jury finds that a statutory aggravating circumstance exists and no mitigating circumstances exist, which would make the imposition of the death penalty unjust, the defendant will be sentenced to death by the court. The courts reviewed the findings of the jurors in the special
Wow.
verdict form. They've taken their time through these deliberations to return that verdict. And so the court will proceed with sentencing first on counts 1 through 6. And again, this is an unusual hearing because the sentencing hearing's already been taking place. We've heard from the victims through impact statements and arguments from counsel. That's already taken place. In addition, a pre-sentence investigation report is not to be ordered in these hearings, so the court does not reference that. The court then orders as follows, and this will be contained in the court's judgment. At the conclusion of the case, as to count 1, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception for the murder of Tylee Ryan, upon the jury's finding of guilty and return of the special verdict form, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances when weighed against the mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 1, the defendant is sentenced to death.
Wow. That's so impactful to hear.
On count 2, the
Judge say
first-degree
that.
murder of Tylee Ryan, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances when weighed against the mitigating circumstances
You
do
look
not make
pouty.
the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 2, sentences the defendant to death.
Wow.
On count 3, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand
Like
theft
you're
by
about to
deception for the murder of J.J. Vallow, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances when weighed against the mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 3, sentences the defendant to death. On count 4, first-degree murder of J.J. Vallow, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances when weighed against the mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 4, sentences the defendant to death. On count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell, the jury having found beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances when weighed against the mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 5, sentences the defendant to death.
Man.
On count 6, the first-degree murder charge, the murder of Tammy Daybell, the jury having found beyond a reasonable doubt and returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances, when weighed against the mitigating circumstances, do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 6, sentences the defendant to death.
He's positively caving right now.
The court's next going to take up counts 7 and 9 on the insurance fraud counts. Before I do that, from the state, are there any questions regarding the court's judgment as it relates to counts 1 through 6?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Questions from the defense?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, moving on to insurance fraud, then the court will note that I am required to go through a sentencing proceeding on this. These are separate counts that have not been determined in the special verdict form by the jurors. Some brief procedural history. Mr. Daybell was charged by amended indictment with counts 7 and 9 insurance fraud under Idaho Code 41293, which is a felony. Mr. Daybell pled not guilty to those counts on June 9th, 2021. Thereafter, this trial was held, and as part of the findings of the jury in their verdict, they did find the defendant guilty of both of those counts. The court has considered, in lieu of a pre-sentence investigation report, the information that I've heard throughout this trial. I also heard information regarding these charges in the previous trial held last year against co-defendant Lori Vallow. I've also heard information received during the special sentencing proceeding relating to those counts as well, and have considered that information in lieu of a pre-sentence investigation report. And I'll also note the defendant waived the pre-sentence investigation report and is permitted to do that, and the court can allow that under Criminal Rule 32A. At this time then, before I move forward with the sentencing on counts 7 and 9, I will inquire of the state, is the state wishing to make any sentencing recommendation as it relates to count 7 or 9?
He looks like a
And
little
Your Honor, just
right
for
now.
clarification, were the insurance frauds count 8 and 9?
As listed in the amended indictment, they are listed as count 7 and count 9.
Thank you.
He looks like a little
Co-counsel just clarified for me on that. Your Honor, the state is prepared to make a statement. First, I would indicate for the record that in relation to the sentencing hearing, the sentencing portion handled yesterday,
He's
the
swallowing
state did
hot.
make our best attempts to reach out to all statutory victims to allow them the opportunity to be heard by the court. And those that the court heard from yesterday were the ones that had wished to make impact statements. While not directly related to the insurance fraud, I did just want to make a clear record of that. In relation to the insurance fraud charges, in light of the sentence that has been imposed by this court and by the recommendation of the jury in relation to the other charges, the state would indicate we think that the victim statements covered everything the state could say. While the insurance charges again are attenuated to it, we've lost 3 individuals that the state can do nothing to bring them back. And so the best we can do is move forward in seeking justice on their behalves. In relation to the insurance counts themselves, given the sentences, we would recommend this court impose jail time and have that, or prison time, impose a sentence and run it concurrent with the imposition of the other sentence by this court. I believe they carry up to 15 years in prison. We'd recommend they run concurrent with each other and with the imposition of death in this case. We would also recommend restitution in the amount of $130,000 to LifeMap and $300,000 to Primerica.
I think it's
As
really
part of that, we would also recommend a waiver of any fines or court costs in this matter in order to allow restitution to be paid if any money is available to go towards that.
All right, thank you for the state sentencing recommendations. Mr. Pryor, does the defense wish to make
I think
sentencing
it's really
recommendations
hitting
as
him.
to, I'll do them collectively, counts 7 and 9, the insurance fraud counts?
No, Judge, there's nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, is there any objection to the requested restitution amounts of $130,000 and $300,000?
Judge, we may need to set that out at this point, but I'll let the court know if that changes.
All right, I'll permit 30 days for the scheduling of a contested hearing on restitution. If that becomes an issue, we could conduct that hearing most likely remotely on a Zoom hearing if it becomes an issue. At this time, I will ask because I need to on these counts. Before I impose any sentence, Mr. Daybell, you do have the right of allocution, which permits you to make a statement on your own behalf in any mitigation of these offenses. Is there any statement you would like to make before I proceed with sentencing on those counts?
No.
No,
Very well.
no.
The court then, having considered the information previously referenced, finds that pursuant to Idaho Code 41293, which under subsection 4 indicates a penalty of up to 15 years of prison. On each of those two counts, the court is going to impose a prison sentence of 15 years. So a 15-year sentence will be imposed on count 7. The court will take under advisement the issue of restitution requested by the state. The court will not impose any fines. The court also will impose a 15-year prison sentence on count 9. Also pursuant to the same statute, take under advisement the issue of restitution. The court will note in imposing these prison sentences that I have reviewed Idaho Code 192521, which requires me to go through certain criteria about the imposition of a prison sentence versus a possibility of parole or a lesser sentence. And I would note that the rationale for the prison sentences is that these are intertwined with the murder charges for which the death penalty has been imposed on those counts. And when the court looks at the sentencing factors under 1925-21, I would note in mitigation that Mr. Daybell has been incarcerated an extensively long time in local jail and has a previous law-abiding history, and I have considered that. I've also considered that he's always conducted himself respectfully, from what I've heard from all of the jailers that have ever interacted with him over the years that he's been incarcerated for these charges. However, the court finds under Idaho Code 2521 also that any lesser sentence would depreciate the seriousness of these offenses because this life insurance was obtained based on the murders of individuals and procuring life insurance payouts unlawfully. And because of that, it's the most serious offense, that circumstance that could lead to that. In addition, imprisonment will provide an appropriate punishment and deterrent for the defendant and others, and will also be a deterrent for the community as well. So the court having then concluded with the sentencing on that, I will not order any fines because the defendant's previously been deemed indigent and has received the death penalty on these murder counts, and find it would be futile to have an order of fines in the case. So with those remarks, then the court typically would address the defendant further, but in the special sentencing proceeding, the victim impact statements and
Oh, come on.
the evidence has already demonstrated on the record, I think, the seriousness of what's occurred. And I don't find any reason to further delve into the court's rationale other than what was listed in the statute. So unless there's anything further, that will conclude the sentencing, but I will address the post-conviction
Damn.
issues that need to be addressed at this time. Does the state have anything further then on the sentence and count 7 and count 9?
I wanted to hear.
No, Your Honor,
that.
thank you.
I
Anything
wanted to
further
hear
from the
what
defense?
judge
No,
thought.
Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Daybell, in this case, given the sentence that was imposed in counts 1 through 6, there's a special appellate and post-conviction procedure for capital cases, and an automatic stay may be in effect. There's a statute that's Idaho Code 192719 that sets out certain deadlines. I am providing you and counsel with a courtesy copy of that statute, but I will note a few of the deadlines that are listed in there. Under subsection 1, when the punishment of death is imposed, the time for filing an appeal shall begin to run when the death warrant is filed. Number 2, the death warrant shall not be filed until 42 days after the judgment imposing the death sentence has been filed. Number 3, within 42 days of the filing of the judgment imposing the punishment of death, the defendant must file any legal or factual challenges to the sentence of conviction. There's other important and critical deadlines that are contained within that statute, and I am going to provide a copy of that to Mr. Pryor to ensure that the defense is well advised of those post-conviction rights that would apply in this special proceeding. I'll also note that there's an additional rule, Idaho criminal rule. If you'll give me a moment, I think it's 44.2.
I was really hoping to hear Boyce.
Criminal Rule 44.2, and that's the mandatory appointment of counsel for post-conviction review after imposition of the death penalty. That rule is also applicable in your case, and a copy of the rule itself is going to be provided to you and counsel to ensure that you're well aware of any post-conviction rights you may have. With that, then, the court is going to conclude the special sentencing proceeding. Is there anything further I need to take up from the state?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your abiding by the court's courtroom conduct order. We'll be in recess.
All right.
I'm just watching as he prepares to walk out. It looks like he's having trouble getting up out of his seat or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. He looks very sad right now. I think it's really sinking in. To me, at this point, it looks like he's doing everything he can to hold back what he's feeling. He can't wait to get where he wants to go so he can really. And they turned off the cameras. Of course they did. Well, there you have it, folks. It's done. Chad Daybell gets the fate that he gave to 3 people unjustly, heinously, and cruelly. And it's a sad day. It may be a just day, but it is a sad day. I'll hang out here with you because they are going to do a press conference outside. They're going to come out and do a press conference. So I'll bring it back when they come out and start doing the press conference. But wow. It's just really heavy. You know, it's a just sentence, but it's also, you don't want for the things to have happened that happened for that sentence to be justified. Stacy, they're not coming back, but there is going to be a press conference on that same feed. So I'm going to show that. I'm going to show the press conference when they start doing that. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like out there right now. So they're going to come out and do a press conference. And I'll so in case you didn't hear what they were really process what the judge was saying, there is an automatic appeals process. So automatically there is an appeals process, and also he said that Chad has been deemed indigent. So they aren't going to enforce the imposition of the fines, which were $130,000. So so it's going to be many, many years. He's going to be in whatever prison that they put him in for many years. And my understanding is that when you're on death row, you're basically in solitary confinement. Definitely not fun. But honestly, probably something that Chad prefers. He seems like a pretty solitary guy. Prefers to sit in a closet in a portal. It will be interesting to see if jurors start to come out and give interviews. I'm sure that they're really exhausted after really sitting for a month in that courthouse. It's exhausting to see all of that depravity, the heinous nature of what happened, to be thrust into the world of absolute religious abuse, religious mind twisting, the cult-like belief that led an entire group of people to conspire to murder children and innocent people. Innocent people. And by the way, I've seen a few people in the chat, I think Patricia and a couple others, say that they're recovering or in the midst of some illness. I feel for you. I'm there. Hope you're on the mend or getting the rest that you need. So it'll be interesting. I know that there have been a couple of jurors from Lori Vallow's trial who have come out. At least one of them is writing a book. There's the woman called Juror 4 has been very vocal, has done several interviews. But I think what I'm glad about is that in the courtroom, people were taking it. I don't think I have COVID, Tiggy girl. I think it's just a regular kind of, because it's going away and it didn't last very long, but thank you. It felt like in the courtroom, they took it with the respect it deserved. There was nobody sitting there. There's nobody sitting there gloating or celebrating or anything like that. Just me, you're saying something about a comment being ghosted. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I don't see a ghost. Is there a specific comment that you wanted me to comment on, or I'm not sure what you're talking about. What was really it was sort of jarring, a little bit alarming to hear a judge say those words, right? The death penalty. sentenced with death, especially with how long this has all taken from the time that we knew that from the time that those children were declared or reported missing to the time to this moment now. So the children were reported missing in the end of 2019. They were found in Chad's backyard in June of 2020. And honestly, then and the nightmare really began in September of 2019. Well, actually July of 2019 when Charles Vallow was murdered. And let's see what they're saying here. Is this a juror? Who is this?
Caitlin Hart with East Idaho News. We just came down from the last hearing of the sentencing phase. Judge Boyce did officially sentence Chad Daybell to death for counts 1 through 6 on the indictment. For the last 2 counts of insurance fraud, Chad was sentenced to 15 years in prison for each of them, plus over $300,000 for the life insurance money that was taken when Tammy and the children, when Tammy was killed during her life insurance policy situation. I'm here with Sarah. Sarah has been here for so much of the trial, right? Tell me how long that you were here watching this trial.
I came to 2 days during jury selection that week. And then since then, I think I've missed out of the full, like when the jury was like impaneled, I think I missed maybe 7 or 8 days total of all the weeks.
Out of 9 weeks. That's a lot. So what made you so interested that you had to be here for it?
Well, I just find it compelling to listen to these like real life stories and see them play out online. And I think that just any average like human with like an average amount of empathy is probably feels like compelled by just what is happening. And just if you're here and you're able to go, I was lucky enough to be able to go. I just felt like it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right. And Sarah was up there with me waiting for the whole verdict. I think there was probably like 20 something people up there just waiting, including media and the public. And we waited around 5 hours for this second sentencing verdict. Are you surprised by the verdict that he got the death penalty and not life in prison?
If you asked me that before the witness impact statements, I think I would have said yes, especially having heard what the people that got impaneled said in their voir dires. But after listening to the witness impact statements and just how I felt, and then watching the jury and getting kind of a feel for sort of the vibe they put off the whole trial, their vibe to me felt very disgusted. There was a lot of disgust and just sort of like fed up. And you could tell they felt for the witnesses that were giving their victims that were giving their statements. And so after that, I was leaning towards thinking they were going to vote for death.
Right. I think a lot of us were kind of on the fence about what was going to happen. And a lot of us thought that the sentencing verdict was going to be quicker than the guilty verdict. And it ended up being about 1 or 2 hours longer, I think. And so it was an interesting time. And I guess we'll see what happens from here. Right now, we're waiting for the prosecutors. We heard they're going to come out and try to do a press conference, and we will carry that live. And stay watching. Thank you.
That was kind of cute at the end how hey Adrian, that was kind of cute at the end how they kind of were like, how do we exit? We'll just they kind of looked at each other and then just went either way. So I guess that was just an interview with somebody who's been there the whole trial. I'm looking forward to some of the family members coming out and giving a press conference. I've been looking around to see if there's anybody else speaking. So and what that attendee was saying about the jury, I noticed the other day when Pryor was speaking to the jury. Both times he spoke, he gave an opening statement and a closing statement, right? Yes, we can close that book, Chopper. He gave an opening and a closing statement, and both times he ended them. Thanks for being here, Tamzilla. Both times he gave the opening and closing statement, he ended them very abruptly. And the last thing he said before he ended his closing statement was something to the effect of that it wasn't really heinous to suffocate a person. He was basically trying to say, yes, Tammy was murdered, but it wasn't heinous because it was a suffocation. And all of a sudden he was like, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And you could tell that he would have gone further into that ridiculous line of thinking if the jury hadn't had some sort of reaction to that. If there hadn't been somebody in the jury who was like, what? It's not heinous to smother a mother of 5 in her own bed and then collect her insurance payments. This was a trial for the murder of Tammy, JJ, and Tylee. So this was the trial for the murder of 3 different people, y'all. Okay. Just want to make sure you all understand that. 3 different people. There is an additional person who was murdered as part of all of this. His name is Charles Vallow. That was Lori's 4th husband. And that trial is supposed to take place. Next, either later this year or probably next year in Arizona, because that happened in Chandler, Arizona, July 11th, 2019. And that's what really kicked everything off. Charles Vallow tried to get help for his wife, Lori. He knew she was having an affair. He knew she was having all these crazy thoughts. All of that stuff. So, Stacy, I know you have been working and probably haven't been tuning into all of my streams, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'll be actually live streaming trials. I will definitely be continuing to post content, court content on this channel, but I'm not sure I will be live streaming trials. And the reason for that is because I'm almost 100% sure I've been shadow banned on both of my channels. So that is going to change my engagement on YouTube. I will still be here. I will still that means that my main reason for being on YouTube is just to keep up with you guys and to say hello to you all. I do too, and I'm going to miss it, but I also have to put my energy, put my productive energy into a place where I know that my message is going to be heard, and YouTube is intentionally suppressing my voice, and my feelings aren't hurt about that. I understand why they're doing it. It's just the way it is. Hold on one moment. Shadow banning means the platform does not promote your channel beyond, basically people who have recently seen your channel, or beyond just a few people. It does not actively promote my channel in the algorithm, and they will never admit it. They barely even admit to shadow banning, but it is a real thing. And I am as confident as I can be that this has happened to me. And I will still stream. I just won't do it as much, and I most likely won't be doing the same kind of live streaming of trials that I used to do. Which is unfortunate. I'll miss it, but I need to put my focus and energy into a place where my voice isn't going to be artificially suppressed, right? Well, the thing is, Chopper, I appreciate that. I'm still going to post, and we can still do that, but I will always be a creator. I will always be a former Google employee who speaks against what they are doing to future generations. So they're always going to want to suppress my voice, even though I believe that I did hear about that Tiggy girl. I actually shared that post. It's heartbreaking. I'm going to be doing reporting outside of YouTube, and I will share my work with you, but I have to build up a body of work outside of YouTube. And there are many, many, many channels, and more channels than when I started, who are carrying the same message I am. I can be more effective and more powerful elsewhere where Google is not artificially suppressing my voice. But I will still be engaged with you all here. I'll still be here. It won't be my primary energy. You'll still hear from me. It just won't be my primary energy, and I won't be I love you all too. That's why I still want to keep in touch with you. The main reason I will still post on YouTube is because I want to keep up with you all. That's it. But why make money for YouTube if they want to artificially suppress my voice? My feelings are not hurt about it. I guess they're not going to be doing this press conference. Oh well. Well, Evil Queen, if it's the bots, let's say it's the bots that found me saying YouTube is ruining the future of our children. If it was the bots that found me saying that, if I were to and then they if it was the bots that found me saying that, and then they and then I went to Google and said, hey, am I shadow banned, Google? Me bringing their attention to that would be like, they would be like, yeah, that's right, because you're a former employee that first of all, they wouldn't admit it to me. They wouldn't admit it to me because they don't admit shadow banning. All right. Second of all, they have no reason to not shadow ban me because I will always be a former Google employee who is critical of them. So that's just the way it is. And I'm not being super articulate about it right now. I'm going to be going live on my other channel where I'll have a much more well thought out presentation put together. I do plan to go live on my other channel, Checkmate Humanity, talk about this and talk about how true crime has become a viper pit of basically Alex Jones clones. And so basically the true crime content is just like a copy of what he did to all the Sandy Hook victims, which was horrendous. So and that's why he owes collectively $1 billion to the Sandy Hook victims. Well, essentially, if you take the things that he did to those Sandy Hook victims, if you take those things in bits and pieces, you can see that being played out in true crime by other creators to true crime victims all over the place. It's the same fucking thing. And you know who made Alex Jones? YouTube made Alex Jones, you guys. YouTube made Alex Jones. So I'm going to be much, much more vocal and pointed about that now that I no longer have a fear of being shadow banned. But I have ways of getting that information and that point of view and that perspective out there in a larger way, in a more impactful way, without having to use their own tools to do it. My feelings aren't hurt about it. It's just that I believe that they are cowards and that they are consistently doing the wrong thing for us, that they're consistently being greedy and doing the wrong thing for the world. And I'm going to keep saying that. And I'm never not going to be saying that. And that's why they will always want to shadow ban me. And that's so I don't need their platform to keep saying that. I don't. And I just remember I was in a Netflix documentary that got billions of people to watch. Okay. I was part of a press campaign against all of this that got billions of impressions. I have no problems getting that information out there. Okay, we got our press conference finally. Here we go. I appreciate you too, Johnny. Can't hear them.
Almost 5 years ago, the communities of Fremont and Madison County lost 3 wonderful human beings, Tylee Ryan, JJ Vallow, and Tammy Daybell. As a Fremont prosecutor on this case, this has been a hard-fought battle for both the prosecution team and for the law enforcement agencies that worked tirelessly on this case and never gave up hope. This has been a tough case because of its complexity, both in telling the story of an investigation that spanned years and trying to figure out the best way to present it in a way that would make sense to others. As a prosecutor, I try a lot of criminal cases, but for me, as a new mom, the details of this one just hit differently, and I can't imagine the family's pain. I cannot express enough both my and Fremont County's deep appreciation, gratitude, and admiration for all those who have played a role in seeking and ultimately obtaining justice for the victims in this case. This case has been about speaking for and seeking justice for the lives of three wonderful humans whose lives were cut way too short by the selfish desires of the defendant and his co-defendant, Lori Vallow. We are pleased with the outcome and that justice has been served for the victims in this case. This has been a collective effort between multiple agencies working in collaboration to see this case through for the victims and their families. There are so many people who have been involved and helped behind the scenes, and every last one of them has been instrumental in obtaining justice. When I came into office in 2021, after discussing the case with others in Fremont County and collaborating with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, a decision was made to bring the case back to Fremont County because we felt strongly the case of J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell should be combined and tried together. You heard from some of the victims' families how these three have been intertwined forever. The Fremont County Sheriff's Office was instrumental in the decision and support of the prosecutor's office in making that difficult decision. I cannot express enough Fremont County's gratitude to Rob Wood and the Madison County Prosecutor's Office. They started this case looking into the whereabouts of JJ and Tylee. Then when the children's remains were discovered, Rob Wood stepped in without hesitation when my predecessor requested he take the case as a special prosecutor, and then ultimately agreed to combine resources to pursue justice for the victims in this case. A special thanks to Fremont County Deputy Prosecutors Rocky Wixom and Tanya Rawlings for their dedication and efforts in both this case and the case against Lori Vallow. The Attorney General's office, in first taking on the prosecution of the murder of Tammy, and then by their agreement to allow us to have Deputy Attorney General Ingrid Beatty join the prosecution team. The FBI for stepping in without hesitation when the children were missing, with their extensive experience and their resources, and continuing to see this case through to the end. The Rexburg Police Department for starting the investigation into the whereabouts of JJ and Tylee, and then never giving up the search. The Fremont County Sheriff's Office for their tenaciousness in pursuing the investigation into the death of Tammy Daybell. Arizona law enforcement for sharing everything they had uncovered and their willingness to come to testify in the cases here in Idaho. This became a joint investigation, a joint effort to find the children, and then ultimately to seek justice on their behalf. I've been absolutely amazed and astounded at the level of investigation, professionalism of the officers involved, and the camaraderie that has been formed. I tell them all the time, they make my job a lot easier. We extend our support to Arizona in their continued pursuit of justice for the additional victims, Charles Vallow and Brandon Boudreau. We also extend our immense gratitude to the jurors in this case who didn't sign up for this difficult process, but agreed to perform their civic duty. And in rendering this verdict, we hope the victims and survivors of Chad Daybell know that the community as a whole does not tolerate the loss of three precious and irreplaceable human beings. We are hopeful that those who have been involved and affected by this case and the actions of the defendant and his co-conspirators can now begin to heal.
Four and a half years ago, Detective Ray Hermosillo walked into our office needing a warrant for what started as a simple search for a Jeep to help an investigation in Chandler, Arizona. This soon turned into a search for two young children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow. That investigation merged with the death of Tammy Daybell. Very quickly, multiple law enforcement agencies and prosecutors' offices began working together diligently to find those missing children and determine what happened. Realizing the children's last residence was in Madison County, we began a child protection action to bring the children to safety. When it was clear that Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell had no interest in helping us locate Tylee and JJ, we took further action in filing charges against Lori and extradited her from Hawaii. The search for Tylee and JJ was nonstop. Every stone was unturned through the diligent team efforts of the Rexburg Police Department, Fremont County Sheriff's Office, the Idaho Attorney General investigators, the FBI, Chandler and Gilbert Police Departments. The willingness of so many different law enforcement agencies to work together and pool resources to obtain justice for these victims is unprecedented. All of these agencies work together with the single goal of justice in mind, and we cannot thank them enough. From the Madison County Prosecutor's Office, We are so grateful for the working relationship and partnership we've had with Lindsay Blake and everyone at the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office in obtaining justice, both in this trial and the trial against Lori Vallow. That includes not only Lindsay, her deputies Tanya Rawling, Rocky Wixom, and all their help staff. I'd also like to thank Ingrid Beatty for being here with us and the Attorney General for allowing her to work with us. And I want to say that Lindsay Blake's dedication to each of the victims in this case has been unwavering. Her willingness to take on this case when she took office, when she didn't have to, was absolutely courageous. It has been an honor to work with her. And I'd also like to thank members of the Madison County Prosecutor's Office who've helped on this case, prosecutors Spencer Rammel, Mackenzie Cole, and Rachel Smith, who've helped on this case. Today, justice was served for Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, 3 innocent victims whose lives were tragically cut short by the selfish and cruel actions of Chad and Lori Daybell, who embarked on a path of destruction that irrevocably altered the lives of countless families and countless individuals. While nothing can undo the immense harm caused, we have worked tirelessly to secure a measure of justice for Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. This week, a diligent and attentive Ada County jury carefully considered the evidence and presented and returned a verdict of guilty on all counts. Last year, an Ada County jury did that for Lori Vallow Daybell as well. Pursuing justice in this case required the unwavering dedication of a large team of public servants who have devoted the last 4.5 years to ensuring we had the evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, we extend our deepest gratitude to all the committed law enforcement professionals from these agencies who have made tremendous personal sacrifices in the face of an emotionally and physically challenging case. We are indebted to them for their service. We also want to applaud the incredible strength and resilience of the victims and family members who, despite unimaginable grief, have stood with us these past 4.5 years in our pursuit of the truth. Their support has been invaluable. To all those who held Tylee, JJ, and Tammy in their hearts, we hope these verdicts bring a measure of healing and closure. And may the memory of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy continue to be a blessing to all who knew and loved them. Thank you.
The ends of press conferences are always so awkward.
Go ahead.
I think every attorney handles it a little bit different, and probably every investigator. I think a lot of times there's things that go on behind the scenes that nobody ever gets to see. Everyone compartmentalizes it different or comes up with some form of therapy or stress relief to deal with it. But I think I can speak for everyone that obviously there is an impact. You get to know the victims. You learn so much about their history and their lives that it's like you knew them in life sometimes. And when you hear their families and friends talk about them and they really bring them to life for you, absolutely there's an impact. But I also think that impact then just spurs you on to fight even harder to make sure that we secure justice.
Another question? Yeah.
I believe the fact that those jurors unanimously found every aggravating factor speaks for itself in terms of its appropriateness, and I'll leave that at that. I don't think we're going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that today.
What has it been like working with the victim's family, knowing that that's what people do today, and that I noticed a lot of hardworking members, of this entire community?
Both say something. Yeah, you say something else.
So I think Rob and I will both answer this one. Working with the victims' families, it can always be a bit of a challenge because you want to ensure that you're getting them information that they're entitled to and that you're taking into account their concerns, what they want to see happen with the case, and that their rights as victims are being upheld. In this particular case, I think the victims' families have been fantastic to work with. We've tried to make ourselves available, meet with them whenever they have questions, and keep them as informed as possible. I think you heard at times, sometimes unfortunately, they learned of things before we were able to reach out to them, and that can always be a challenge as well. But working with them, getting to know them, hearing the stories about their loved ones, hearing the good memories, hearing them bring the victim to life has been an incredible experience. I think we've enjoyed a good working relationship with all the victims in this case.
I second everything Lindsay just said, and I would also just say that these cases are hard. They're really hard to do, and the victims were just such a motivating factor, I think, for everybody involved, for law enforcement, for the prosecution office. Their dedication to their loved ones is so important, and we just really appreciate their patience with us, their willingness to work with us. They have been truly, to me, I think to Lindsay, to everybody, very inspirational. Ask that in a couple of years and we'll see.
I mean, it feels great. We worked as a team tirelessly for 4 years. Not just myself; it was a collaborative effort. I have a great team. We worked with several different agencies, so it's a team effort. But I think we're all feeling the exact same thing, which is just relief. We're glad it's done. We got justice for JJ, Tammy, and Tylee, so that's what counts. I would say hundreds. Yeah, hundreds of people, hundreds of hours. So it's a relief. Thank you.
We technically had 7 law enforcement agencies, not including the prosecutor, over 3 different states and maybe even more, but 7 law enforcement agencies. All right, anybody else? All right, thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for everything.
I want to go back to the part where
Go ahead.
I think there's things that are different when you hear their fact, but
I believe the fact that those jurors unanimously found I don't think we're going to talk about that.
I was trying to figure out what they were talking about right there. I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it, y'all. I'm sorry. Oh, wow, y'all. Heavy day. heavy day, man. I mean, again, not something to celebrate, but definitely justice has been served. And there is the death penalty in Arizona. It's possible that Lori could get it, but I'm not sure if she could get it for the issue with that situation is that she's not the one who pulled the trigger. And it's one death. And I think, it's definitely, certainly heinous, very heinous circumstances, but she didn't pull the trigger. So I think if Alex Cox were still alive, perhaps maybe he would, but it's one death, and one death should be enough. But I don't know, but I kind of doubt that she will. There were some other questions. I kind of doubt that they will get divorced. In all honesty, it almost seems like, meaning Lori and Chad. I don't know what that would accomplish for them. You know what I mean? But for me, I just think, this was a very, very, very long time coming for the victims' families. They're probably incredibly relieved that this is over. And, I bet a lot of their healing has been put on hold until all of this was put behind them, and this trial could happen. But there are still some victims who it's not over for yet, unfortunately, because Charles Vallow's death has not been has not been vindicated yet. That trial hasn't happened yet, and that's Kay Woodcock's brother and Colby Ryan's adoptive father. So very, 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 very sad. Now, there's a slight possibility that if I'm able to work in live streaming that trial, I could do that, but we're going to have to just make that decision at that point. We'll see what's going on. And that would be literally just out of sheer interest of that trial. But if YouTube is going to artificially suppress my voice, why should I sit here and make money for them? Why should I put my time into making money for them if they're going to artificially suppress my voice? So anyway, I just want to thank you all for being such a wonderful, wonderful part of my day, watching this horrific trial. Yeah, that's right. Thank goodness Brendan lived to tell. But I've truly looked forward to connecting with you all, even though, it's been hard to process this trial and the heinous nature of it and the mindfuck nature of this cult that created a system that would justify the killings of innocent people. But I just want to emphasize that the thinking in that cult and the maneuvers in that cult, a lot of the thinking and the maneuvers are the same things that happen in the algorithm that is behind YouTube and the internet. Okay. The triangulation, the deflection, the driving us to places, the fucking with our mental health, the pushing us into areas where they know that we will be driven to a frenzy. They know that. They know that they're pushing content on us that will harm our brains. They know this, you guys. They know it. And they are spending millions and sometimes billions of dollars to keep it that way. To keep it that way. So, that's why it's so important for me to keep saying this. I want you all to know this. I'm not the only person saying it, but YouTube is not going to allow that message to be spread widely on their own platform by a former employee. That's just the way it is. And I understand that it's a business decision. So there are other ways to do it. And I've done it before, so I'll do it again. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. And you'll hear about it. I will update you here. You just have to stay, subscribed and, sometimes you're just going to have to, unfortunately, actively look for my channels to see, because you may not get notifications. But good question, Great Dane Mom. If I ever find out, I will let you know. But this isn't about me, honestly. This is about, gosh, I'm about to cry. Tylee, you've been avenged. You didn't deserve it. You didn't deserve it either, Tammy. But you've been avenged. And you too, JJ. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. And for putting up for how I get emotional sometimes. Actually, that's not Steve Stacy. That's the little doggy next door. Steve has a big old bark. So, I will be seeing you around. You haven't lost me completely. But I love you all, and I will be seeing you around. Thanks for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your spring summer day. It sure is, Johnny. All right. Bye-bye.